All right, so we just have a couple other ideas related to the ritual that we just wanted to discuss. We ended up having probably like a 2-hour discussion outside of 7-Eleven after watching the ritual with Christian, where we went over a lot of cool stuff.
It was great. Highlight of the week.
Yeah, and we were sitting there, and you said something like, "Oh, I wish we had a camera to film this discussion." Now we do. So we're just gonna nerd out, talk about the movie, what we thought, our impressions, our interpretations of stuff. Perhaps argue and get into a fight.
I hope so.
Yeah. I feel I'll lose this.
No, I don't want to fight it either.
But we'll just nerd out. So enjoy our discussion and join in the comments below. You want to go first, or
I don't know, man. Any starting point is good for me. I just remember crying at the end of this film.
Right. Yeah.
I was on the verge of tears. I couldn't handle it. I had to walk out of the room for a little while.
Yeah.
The catharsis that the main character experiences at the end of the film was huge for me. It felt like he finally overcame that huge hurdle that was his own cowardice or his own guilt. You know, whatever was preventing him from moving on and from stopping all of his chain smoking and his cocked shoulders and his drinking and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, man, that was a powerful moment for me. But what led up to that moment is cool. I think could serve as a nice starting point for this conversation.
Yeah, well, I do remember that happening. Like, we ended the movie, put it on pause, and it's like, cool, Christian, what do you think? We take like a little moment to kind of, reset after watching the movie. Then we do the post viewing interview, and then Terrence got up and he just got up and it's kind of like wow, fuck man, and he just like walked away for a minute. It clearly affected you, and that was really interesting. I thought that was really cool.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, and it,
after watching Luke like scream back at Motor, just primal. I don't know, catharsis, like you said.
Oh yeah, like he was letting it all out. It's like I remember one time I was with my friend and we were drinking on a beach next to a lake in Canada, and he was just getting over a terrible breakup.
Yeah.
Really, really nasty one when things that you would never dream of saying to another person are kind of let out and do to another person, and he was kind of recuperating from that. And it wasn't the alcohol that he drank, and it wasn't the food that he ate, but he just started vomiting profusely. And he looked at me after he was done. He's like, "Well, that's the past, and now I'm gonna
move forward.
This is the future." And it was a beautiful night, and we had a lot of fun. But that's what it kind of reminded me of when Luke was, he's getting it all out and getting. That's the past. It's done with now.
Yeah.
Time to move on with your life. Yeah, man, a really, really powerful moment.
Very powerful moment, yeah.
Really, really powerful moment. I think one of the reasons why it was so powerful is the beginning in that dreamlike sequence.
In the convenience store?
In the convenience store. And even before that in the bar, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
You're right, that moment in the convenience store, which was like the prologue, right? And I love how it's established like that by the director. All these things are happening, and suddenly he wakes up in a tent.
Yeah.
And so the entire opening urban sequence of the film is this painful remembrance. And for an audience member, kind of like a confession of guilt. But I mean, that was huge. Even it was my second time watching the film when we watched it with Christian. Yeah. But even then, I didn't really expect that occurring for a main character of a film to go through that, as opposed to some other. I don't want to downplay tragedies that occur to characters in other horror films, losing a daughter, or losing a son, right, or losing a beloved family member. But I mean, not responding and helping a friend in his time of need, that's hard.
Yeah,
that's really hard.
You're gonna carry it. I'm sure that's happened to someone in the world, and I imagine that someone would carry that guilt forever. That's a horrible thing. And
no, go on. Pardon.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's hard to like. Should Luke have done something? There are going to be people who say, "Yeah, he should have, bashed these guys' heads in with a bottle and saved his friend." On the other side of that, like, that's a scary situation, and people freeze up. People get scared. He's only human.
It's so easy to judge him.
Yeah, very easy to judge him.
And to kind of criticize, oh, what an asshole, I can't believe he did that.
Yeah.
But it kind of begs the question, what
would you do in this situation?
Yeah. Where your life might be on the line. These guys were armed, right? Did they have a gun?
I think they just had like I can't remember if they had a gun or not.
They had a machete or a pipe
or something
yeah,
dangerous. They had a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it was scary. It was a scary situation, and despite how brave you may think you are, or maybe have been in the past, when that moment comes up, surprising you like that, you might freeze like Luke did. So some people, might very easily blame him for not helping his friend. On the other side, like someone else might say, I would have done the same thing. I would have frozen, or if this was happening to two of my friends and I was on the outside, I wouldn't have blamed him because, he's only human. What are you gonna do when these, people with weapons kill your friend and you don't have any skill or much of an ability to defend your friend? Like, how can you be blamed for that? It's and then people on the other side are going to argue the opposite. It's easy to judge him from either angle.
Yeah. Especially just because his friend actually did stand up. He said, "No, I'm not going to give you my wedding ring." He wasn't
right.
He didn't succumb to their requests without a fight, or without a refusal at the very least.
Yeah.
I love, by the way, the setup of that entire situation.
Mm-hmm.
They just came back from a bar. It was a very well-lit liquor store that they walked into. Very, very well. It was such a seemingly innocuous situation.
Right.
What could possibly go wrong? They're in a commercial area. There are people walking around outside, but as soon as they walk in, they turn and they see this girl who looks like she's been beat up.
Yeah.
This poor girl, and she gives them a look like you guys just walked into some kind of some crazy hell here. That was really freaky. And then of course the music came on a little bit, and there was some strained violins.
And the lights were flashing.
And the lights were flashing.
Yeah, which is something that seems to be like not implanted, but that's stuck with Luke, because when Motor would bring this memory back, that flashing light would always be there. When events happen in your life, you remember these weird details. Luke seems to have remembered, the lights were kind of off a little bit, kind of flickering a bit, and then every time he relives it through Motor's hallucinations, that's kind of there. And
it was
sorry, no,
I might have digressed a little bit. I'm going to digress a little bit, but his guilt is based not on something that he did, but by something that he didn't do.
Yeah.
I remember
Inaction,
I used to have this old Fisher-Price record player, and I bought a record of poems by Ogden Nash, American poet. And he said this one poem that goes, it's common knowledge to every schoolboy and to even every bachelor of arts that all sin is divided into two parts. The first kind of sin is called sins of commission, and that's when you do something that you shouldn't. But it's the second kind of sin, sins of omission, that lays eggs under your skin.
Oh, wow.
He says, you never get a wild, forbidden thrill every time you let a policy lapse or forget to pay a bill. He's like, when was the last time you slapped the lads on the back and cried, let's all forget to write one more unwritten letter, and this next round of unwritten letters is on me. And by the end of the poem, right, and he does this in this beautiful kind of transatlantic sounding accent, a Chicago accent, I think, at the time. And then at the end of the poem, he says, so if you are going to sin, remember to do it by doing, than by not doing at all. And I think there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't do a thing, that he refused to, or that there's really no excuse, especially in his mind, and it's that dogged inability to come to terms with the fact that he basically led his friend to slaughter. He didn't lift a finger to help him. That haunts him throughout the film and sets a moody precedent. For what's going to happen after that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And as we discussed in the Rookie Horror Picture Show, like Luke's inaction is what plagues his mind, right? His inaction. And then as the movie progresses and we see Luke grow, develop, it's when he takes these moments of action where we see that most. When we kind of laugh when he punches the old lady in the face, but we're cheering too because he's doing something. He's in a scary situation when before he froze, and not even just froze. He looked at the bottle and he thought, like, should I?
He cowered.
And he cowered. Yeah. And here he is in a very different but still very scary, very dangerous situation. And he takes action.
He's actually doing something.
Yeah, and then so he punches the witch in the face, the old lady, whoever she is. in old crow in the face, and so yeah, we laugh, we get a little kick out of it because that tension's built up, and we can kind of take a second to smile a bit. But I don't think it's pure comedy. It's comedy along with kind of relief.
Yeah.
That cool, man. You're fighting your way through this. You've progressed. You've grown as a person. You're fighting your fears. You're taking action now.
The comedy serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And it allows the audience to be like, oh yeah, okay, that's what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
He's finally doing it. The old trout.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I think is saying. Yeah, man. That's such a good point. I didn't think about that.
It's not comedy for comedy's sake. I think it was almost incidental comedy. Like maybe I don't know what the writers were doing, but kind of like, okay, well the old lady finds him, okay, and then what does he do? How's he get the old lady to not call for the other villagers and stuff? How can he like get her to be quiet? Like put a gag on her mouth, tie her up. Oh, that takes too much time. The house is burning down. How about he just punches her in the face? Well, that's funny in a very cruel way. Like we don't advocate punching old ladies in the face. Like someone's gonna turn on this channel. Someone's gonna turn on the channel and be like, these guys are jerks punching old ladies. But in the situation, like she was bad. She needed to be stopped.
She needed to be removed.
What else could you do with nothing in your hands, no time available, but using your hands, taking action? So he punches her in the face, which is for whatever cruel reason is funny. I don't know, but I think that comedy is almost incidental. The bigger, perhaps maybe the bigger thing we get from that moment is that he's progressed. He's now taking action when he needs to, in contrast to when he didn't in the past, when he needed to.
I completely agree. In the beginning of the film, and the whole dreamlike or nightmare prologue, he's very talkative.
Yeah.
Very, very, very loose in the shoulders. He's ripping on some of his mates.
Yeah. He's got a dick to him, but
he's verbose, and in some way you could see, he kind of seemed like the leader, and if not the leader, then the joker in the party.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone who you maybe feel comfortable
confident
around. Yeah, confident, and he had some swagger.
Yeah.
And you compare that to when he woke up in the town.
Yeah.
And they're finally in Sweden, and they're kind of living out the last suggestion by their friend, which to go camping in the forest. And he's smoking, and his shoulders are all taut.
Yeah.
And he's quiet, and he has this incessant, nervous, strained look on his face.
Consistently rattled.
Yeah.
By his past.
Yeah. And there's no moving on from it. The difference in that characterization one, I think, is really awesome. Like it's really really well played, well acted, well played, as we say in the theater.
And then through that, we almost see three versions of him. We see the original kind of dickish version of Luke back home wherever they are. And then the rattled, kind of neutered version of him. And
it's good.
He was very neutered in his confidence and in his swagger and everything through past halfway through the movie, and then once Hutch is gone, Hutch goes to Luke's and says, I can't do this. You need to kind of take over the lead. And Luke stands up and does that. And after after Phil's gone, Hutch is gone. Luke is the one saying, okay, Dom, we gotta run now. Okay, let's do this. Dom, you're not gonna die. I'm not gonna tell your wife that you looked for her, because I'm not gonna have to, because you're gonna survive this.
I'm not gonna leave you.
I'm not gonna leave you.
Yeah, man.
He's asking questions. He's punching old ladies in the face, and he stabbed he hacked a monster's face with an axe, and he ran out of the forest. And we see this kind of like rebirth, but not of the original Luke, but of a new, like, stronger Luke that's gone through some sort of traumatic catharsis.
Yeah.
At the end there, very primal change that he's gone through.
A purposeful Luke.
Yeah.
A Luke who's living with something in mind. And you could call that integrity. You could call that a goal. Mm-hmm. Maybe that goal is immediate, just get out of the forest or get out
survival.
Survive, right? And kudos to Hutch for doing that. for bringing him aside, saying like, yeah, I don't know how much these guys can last, because Hutch was the guy who was kind of like the de facto leader of the group, right? I mean, he would propitiate Dom whenever Dom would complain.
Why do you have to fucking deny everything I say?
Because I do not value your judgment, Luke. And I want to get the fuck out of here.
Listen, mate, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
No, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you.
Dom, shut up.
Right.
And he would take care of Phil, and he would give them directions. If I'm not mistaken, he was the one who had the map.
He had the map, and he was the one saying you need to go this way. Yeah, he had the map. He was the direct. He was saying we should go this way, follow this path, and even
so his leadership character was reflected even with what he was, with what he had on him.
Yeah,
we got to go in this direction. We got to do this. We
he was
do that,
clearly a leader type person.
And he was the one who evidently cared the most for Luke. And sympathized with the most by virtue of those a couple of heartfelt conversations that they had regarding what had happened before.
Right.
Yeah, man, he was the one. And then why did he approach Luke and say what he said? Maybe it was because of the dream that he had?
Could be the dream. Could be also one, I think there's some probably quote floating around the internet about this, like, one sign of a good leader is the ability to choose, the right people to surround yourself with. And I think Hutch, by saying, Luke, you need to take over as lead because I can't do it now, that's still a sign of leadership.
Right.
And I think Hutch throughout the film was
to recognize what other people perhaps need to hear and need to have put upon them.
Yeah, and he recognized that as leader, he's not going to be able to be a good leader much longer, but Luke could be, and so he asked Luke to do that.
But also giving Luke that responsibility makes Luke less likely to focus on himself, more likely to focus on others and thereby perhaps regain a sense of purpose and responsibility. I mean, we watch so many horror films.
Yeah.
And I remember, and there was a period when I was younger, I couldn't watch horror films at all, or at least I couldn't watch them without suffering from vicious nightmares that maybe go squirming into mom and dad's room when I was a boy. There came a period, like in my late teens, where I started watching horror films with other people who hated them or were more reluctant to watch them than I was.
You see the impetus of the show from that.
Maybe
this is where it all started.
It's all unconscious for me, but in watching a film with someone who's a lot more afraid, and taking on and this could have been a younger brother, Ryan, or this could have been like a girlfriend that I was lucky enough to date, but in doing that with them and kind of serving as a guardian, like, hey, it's okay, like a protector figure, I didn't have the time to be as scared,
right.
or to be as fearful, right? And so giving Luke responsibility, I think maybe Hutch understood that Dom was perhaps a little weaker.
Yeah, physically because of his injured leg.
Maybe that's expressed a little bit in the fact that maybe his ankle really wasn't as. I think it was eventually because he kept putting pressure on his knee.
I think it was his knee, his
leg, whatever. His knee or something. But they were joking a little bit, like, oh, he always does this. Yeah. Oh, it's just Dom again. He'll complain forever.
What do you think?
I think we could be carrying him out there like a fucking Egyptian princess if we're not careful.
I mean, it's probably not even as bad as he says it is.
Almost certainly not as bad as he says it is, but it's not going to stop him moaning the whole way back, is it?
And Phil had problems with his foot. I think we were one of the questions we were going to discuss was why does Phil keep messing with his shoes?
And why do his shoes? Why is so much camera time developed
to his shoes
and to his shoes and dialogue time?
And we looked it up a little bit. And we were wondering, does this mean something symbolically? And then it's just
who is Phil?
Yeah.
Why is he dressed in different colors?
Yeah, because he is
compared to the rest. Because the rest of the guys are almost all in this
very dark, grayish,
this very
natural color,
navel green color, this dark green color. From their shirts to their pants, but Phil's in this maroon,
reddish color,
this
burgundy color. In
kind
both the bar, like earlier in the city,
both the bar and in the forest.
In the forest, yeah.
So Philip is certainly Philip.
Philip. You're his dad.
We're going shoe shopping tomorrow. Phil certainly stands out.
He stood out. He caught our attention. We'll talk more about Phil in a sec.
Yeah, sure.
Finish. But sorry, no. But it was, why are they spending so much time on Phil's feet? And then we were discussing this at length, and then I brought up the Wikipedia page, and it just, in the book, this is based on a book, it mentions how Dom hurt his knee in the beginning, which is very clear in the movie, and Phil, his shoes were too tight or something, was having like problems with his shoes, which I'm guessing, which we're guessing that the film was just kind of paying a little bit of tribute, like, oh, this happened in the book, so here's another little thing from the book.
Bit of fanfare.
Yeah, a little fanfare. Right. If you're a fan of the book, Phil had foot problems because of his shoes. Yeah.
For the literature.
So, but we spent probably 20 minutes talking about Phil's shoes, just straight up talking about his shoes. Like,
shoes,
what could this mean? How does this relate to motor? The shoes, the symbol of the traveler. And
he's walking in his own shoes.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Why empathize with other people when you can empathize with yourself? No, what? Isn't that why we're all here?
So we went a little far with that, but then we reined ourselves in. But it was an interesting discussion.
But I think what in part kickstarted that discussion was when they went into that when they went into the cabin. Kickstarted. No, I didn't even think of it. When they went into the cabin, it's called the witch's cabin, the effigy cabin. There's the
this
headless effigy of
Motor's head, basically. Yeah.
Motor's head basically is there, and with human hands
sticking out like Motor has, sticking out of
the bottom, and the guys are like, oh my
face.
God, this is weird. And Phil's the one who wakes up.
Well, yeah. And this is what...
Do you want to talk about this later?
Well, I mean, it was kind of my... Coming away from the movie, the first time I viewed the movie, I enjoyed it very much. It's probably one of my favorite horror... I think you have a poster of it here. And, yeah, right here. And this is Terrence's place, and when we first came here and he showed me his little poster wall creation, I was looking
at it, like,
oh, sweet, The Ritual. We definitely have to do that movie for one of our episodes of Rookie Horror Picture Show. Because I saw it maybe a year ago the first time, and it's probably one of my favorite horror movies. The Motor's creature design is amazing. The setting is so cool. I like woodsy settings for horror movies for some reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, I came away from it, and I really enjoy The Shining because there's just so many rabbit holes, as you mentioned before. Like you can just dive into The Shining. I mean, there's documentaries on the theories of The Shining.
The movie The Shining is a maze.
Yeah, The Shining itself is a maze of ideas. There's so many layers to it, and then The Ritual. After I watched it, I thought, like, well, how deep was this movie? It wasn't particularly deep. The theme was quite clear. You know, overcome your fears, overcome your guilt. You know, move on from your past, face your fear. Literally, where Luke faces Motor.
How many avenues of thought, and how many reference points, and how many ways can we interpret? Right. And find symbolic imagery in the film.
And the first time I viewed it, I didn't feel like there was much there. It didn't make it a bad movie. Like, it was a simple theme, simple plot, but it was just executed very well, which is fine. But then upon our second viewing, I noticed several things I hadn't noticed the first time, which some of the research we'd done beforehand kind of helped trigger. And then after the movie, after we interviewed Christian on his opinions and his thoughts on the movie, Terrence and I, we just talked for a good 2 hours probably about the movie, and then just, well, what about this? And you're like, oh yeah, what about this? And then, oh yeah, and we started stumbling upon all these very little, at least maybe we just, maybe I'm just bad at noticing stuff, but it felt like little, the first time I saw it. Later we're like, oh, that might be a thing, Phil's shoes, and then maybe that wasn't a thing. But then other things we haven't really been able to find answers to, which made us kind of realize this movie's significantly deeper than what at least I initially thought upon my first viewing. So if you've only seen the movie once, we'd recommend seeing it a second time.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot there. So yeah, one of the things that not bugged me, but that stuck in my mind for a while and that I questioned a lot was again Phil, not his shoes this time, but it seems upon completing the movie, you kind of get the sense that, okay, Motor wants worshippers. Motor has this sect of acolytes that worship him or her. I think in the book it's a her. In the movie, in the movie, it's not quite clear what the gender is.
Androgynous beast.
The beast. It's pretty clear that Motor wants worshippers. It has them. Some of them appear to be quite bold. The mummified people up in the attic there, and then Motor's seeking new worshippers that through whatever process it has, whatever standards it has, deem worthy of the privilege of this hellish immortality that Mother gives them. And
Yeah, there are a lot of means at its disposal
right.
to figure out who people are. It seems like it has some, I don't know, maybe
Has some sort of
like
standards.
either like telepathic or mind reading abilities.
It seems to be able to read minds.
It can
yeah.
inject dreams into people or like dreamlike states. It has a.
It can read your mind.
It has a peculiar and particular way of finding out what your past is, basically. Perhaps
Right.
even what your fears are.
Right,
What you
right.
regret.
Yeah.
How much pain. What's your
Yeah.
think of like a video game bar.
Yeah, your level
What's your
of
pain meter?
pain meter,
How
yeah.
many hearts do you have left?
And it seems to use that in some way to judge who it will choose to be its worshiper. And you might say, well, if it needs worshippers, why didn't it just make all 4 of our main characters be worshippers? I don't know. Maybe it needs 2 types of sacrifice. Maybe it needs worshippers to worship it, but it also needs to put sacrifices, in the trees. Impale them on the branches. Maybe it requires as some, bastardization, some bastard descendant of the gods that it mentions in the movie. It needs different forms of worship, sacrifice. So it sacrifices the 3 friends, and we'll take one as a worshiper. Maybe there's some ratio of different types of sacrifice it needs, different types of worship it needs. I don't know.
But we learned from one of the acolytes, one of the villagers in the camp, and the one that seems to perhaps have the most sympathy, maybe because she was
Toward
the most recent member.
Yeah.
She has the most sympathy towards Luke, that the creature chose him and marked him.
Right.
Because of his level of pain.
Right.
So there seems to be something necessary about the amount of pain that a person has endured or is enduring, and the correlation to the monster's desire to have that
Right. It seems
person
to feed off of.
as a follower.
Now, some discussion we saw on the internet when researching this was, okay, does Motor feed off of regret and pain, or does the fact that people who have the most regret, who've been through the most pain, are more submissive in a way, and therefore more likely for Motor to be able to control, to force to submit to it. And that kind of brings us back to Phil. So that night they spent at that witch's cabin, we know what Luke dreamed about, what he nightmared about, what he had a nightmare about. And Motor chose him because of that. We can infer some stuff about Dom. He was screaming Gail, his wife's name, and earlier in the movie he mentions like we should go to Vegas, and basically it implies that he might cheat on his wife, have affairs or something.
Or perhaps even that they are
Fighting.
they had divorced.
I think in the book,
Maybe?
I'm not sure. I think in the book Phil and Dom are either going through a divorce or had a divorce. I think so. I don't know. So perhaps that's true in the movie setting as well. It's not quite clear, but it's clear he cares about his wife, and his biggest fear is losing her. And then later on, it's referenced again when Motor approaches Dom as he's being sacrificed. He approaches Dom, at least in Dom's mind, as his wife Gail.
Yeah.
And then Hutch and Phil, though, it doesn't really dive into what they had nightmares about. And we thought it would be a really interesting question, so that's why we asked you guys what you thought their nightmares were for the comments in our Rookie Horror Picture Show video. Hutch, he's the leader. He's the one in control. He wet himself. Whatever the nightmare was, it was scary enough to make him piss his pants. Loss of control. That's the most I could gather from that. Phil, though,
Being split open.
yeah, and your insides coming out.
Being disemboweled.
Yeah, and he was
in the middle of these inescapable woods. I piss my pants.
And it's traumatizing. You see him standing out there outside the cabin, just this drained look on his face. It affected him.
Dread.
Yeah.
But Phil.
I find a little more interesting because there's a little bit more there. As they're having that, they're just chatting, kind of trying to warm up by the fire in the cabin that one night they spend there before they all go to sleep. Phil saw that effigy up there and thought it was scary, and he said, I'll pay $1,000 to anyone who goes up there and sleeps beside it. So...
Who's Phil who said that?
Yeah, Phil said that.
I thought so. I thought there was some precedent.
Yeah, so it seems like there was something about Phil and this effigy, this worship there, and then they all had their nightmares, and Phil ended up being in the second floor of the cabin, naked, vulnerable,
exposed,
praying,
on his knees, kowtowing before this effigy thing. Yeah,
praying to this effigy. And when he woke up, he was very freaked out, as they all were.
He was vulnerable. He was exposed. He was on his hands and knees, and he was bowing towards this thing.
Yeah.
In his hands in a very prayerful position.
To the effigy of Motor there in that cabin. And then as they kind of collect themselves, they're getting ready to continue their trek. And as Phil's again putting his shoes on, because that's a thing in the movie, they deal with his shoes a lot.
A lot of shoes.
He's giving Luke this look,
Shoes.
this almost like knowing look, and maybe that implies that Phil knows something that the others don't about Luke, and ultimately we see Luke be the chosen one by Motor among those four, and one of the final scenes is, Motor chases Luke down, not to kill him or take revenge. Remember, Luke killed the majority of Motor's worshippers, and then Motor for some reason kills the rest of his or her own worshippers. Not sure why that happened. That was odd to me. I think we can discuss that in a minute too.
Yeah.
Chases Luke down.
Because that was an act of disobedience in and of itself, wasn't it?
In a way, yeah. But Motor chases down Luke, not to get revenge, not to punish him, not to kill him, but to push him to bow down before Motor, right? Motor pushes Luke down.
To make him surrender.
Bow down to me. Motor does this, dominance pose. Luke stands up, and Motor doesn't punish him, kill him, or say, stupid human, I'm done with you. It just pushes him down again, saying, no, bow down to me. And Luke his second time stands up, and with the axe in hand that happened to be nearby, and then, whacks Motor in the face with it and runs away and ultimately escapes Motor. So Motor clearly wants worshippers, and tying that back to Phil was there on his knees, prone, naked, praying before an effigy of Motor, which would make me infer that maybe Phil was Motor's first choice in who the chosen one's going to be. And because his nightmare was maybe bowing down before some god. I don't know what happened in Phil's past to make him fear superstition, religion, things like that. But I got the feeling that perhaps Phil plays a bigger role, at least in Motor's motivation, than is perhaps shown in the movie. Perhaps Phil was Motor's first choice, and because Phil was there praying to Motor, as Motor wanted Luke to do later on, but for some reason Motor switched from Luke to Phil, perhaps.
Here's an over-the-board idea. I just thought of that. Maybe not. Luke was the one who was touched.
Right.
They all have their own dream-like sequences. Not sequences. They all have their own dreams overnight. But Luke was the one who was chosen. He was the one who was plucked. He was the one who was
marked by Motor.
Marked. He was the one who got the scars. But Luke is also the one who discovered Phil. Is he not?
Discovered Phil.
Wasn't Luke
in the morning?
Wasn't Luke the one that opened the door?
I think so, yeah.
And he saw Phil. So perhaps that sight was something that Luke was meant to see.
To show him, like,
to show Luke,
you need to do what Phil is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I mean, to basically just show him, and the kind of behavior that's going to be expected of him.
That's possible. Yeah.
Or prophesized.
Whatever Phil's nightmare was.
Yeah.
In the end, he was in this position that Luke, being the one who finds Phil up in the attic, the second floor of this place.
Yeah. Perhaps
a role he's going to have to take later
his whole purpose was to provide Luke with greater incentive to do the same kind of actions and about the
That's
same
an idea.
way.
Okay, yeah.
Just over the board. I say over the
No,
board
no,
because I like
that
playing
makes
chess and sometimes an over the board decision because you have like your preparation,
Yeah.
but then like there's some things that you'll come
So,
up
so
with
perhaps
in the moment.
perhaps Luke
Yeah.
was always the chosen one by Motor, but Motor used Phil as incentive, like you say, or as kind of as an example. Okay,
Yeah,
you're the
as an
chosen
example.
one.
Yeah.
I'll turn this character, Phil, into an example for you of what you need to do when you meet me, face to face. Finally, that's an idea too. Yeah, sure. Either way, I think Phil plays an interesting role in this movie. He's not just fodder for being impaled on trees.
Yeah, he's not just a meat target.
Yeah, like a lot of movies, a lot of characters are kind of useless. And I think upon first viewing, I was just like, yeah, the main character Luke, okay, and he has these three buddies, they die, okay, but each one kind of has their own role. And they're all layered in interesting ways.
Oh, yeah.
Hutch is the leader, but then he gives up leadership willingly to Luke because he knows he can't lead anymore. I think that shows
Right.
a really interesting level of inner strength.
Yeah.
And whatever his nightmare was shows, again, that loss of control. He wed himself. Phil, as we discussed, may have been Motor's first choice, or he may have been some example for Luke to follow in Motor's mind.
And out of all four friends, he's certainly the quieter one.
Yes,
Or-
yeah, he seems to
or-
have the least amount of film time. I think his shoes get more reference than he does.
One that who doesn't demand his character be attention to as much as the other three.
Right.
And then you have Dom, who's just the mouth of the group, or the one who's really outspoken and sensitive and
Yeah, kind of a hypochondriac.
yeah, a little bit.
It was
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
And he's Dom's, I think, probably the least likable character once the movie gets going. I think initially Luke's pretty unlikable.
Oh yeah,
He's got this swagger to him, like you said, but he's also kind of a dick. And he makes fun of Dom for being kind of overweight. That's kind of mean. But then
his weakness in the liquor stores is so difficult to neglect.
right.
Throughout the film, like I remember him waking up at that camp. Oh, that prick! How dare?
Yeah.
How could he? How could he do that to his friend? But I mean, it's not just black and white. I mean,
Right.
one must be able to try to put themselves in those shoes. And we'd all like to think. I certainly would for myself.
Yeah,
Oh
but
man, if my buddy was in trouble, and I'd have his back, even if that meant perhaps risking my own life. And we're accustomed to seeing that. I mean,
in movies.
we're teachers. Do you mind if I say that?
No, that's right.
Yeah, we're teachers, and so we have a lot of students, and they like the Avengers. And so,
I did it
and
too.
so we were
You like the Avengers?
I haven't really seen a whole
Really?
lot of films. I mean, I liked Iron Man. That was good. But no, a couple Avengers films, I had the plot described to me in ruthless detail by my students before I had the opportunity to see the film, and I'm still kind of begrudging that.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah.
that episode. In any case, in a lot of popular films, we're accustomed to seeing a hero be himself or be herself.
Become a hero.
We're accustomed to seeing someone do the right thing again and again and again.
Right.
And we applaud that. Perhaps we've become so accustomed to seeing it these days that maybe we take it for granted.
Yeah. Because that's not realistic.
So that
necessarily.
when we see someone err, which is to human,
Yeah.
when we see someone do something that is thoroughly and shamefully unheroic,
Yeah.
but at the same time very understandable, then we kind of cast our eyes down at that person. It's very easy to, at the very
It's
least.
easy to. Yeah.
It's easy to say, oh, that fuck. It's easy to say, oh, that immoral. It's easy to say, that nasty guy, how could he possibly do that?
Yeah.
Good save,
Yeah,
right?
right. And then, so I think it's shameful, and especially with how much we get inundated with how people should be, which, I mean, we need influences, we need examples of good people in the world, for sure, but it's hard to expect everyone to be a hero, and because this is a movie, we're expecting the hero to act like a hero, but when we first meet him, he does the opposite. He's very unheroic, and that's what triggers his journey through the movie. And then so that gives him these really interesting layers. And like we said with Hutch, he has these cool layers of leadership. Phil, I wonder about his past, what his nightmare was, his role in Motor's mind, how Motor viewed him, because it seems like Motor viewed Phil and Luke separately from how Motor viewed Dom and Hutch. Dom and Hutch to Motor seemed to be just kind of fodder. Phil seemed to have a little bit more of a significant role, perhaps would have been the main character had not something changed in Motor's mind. And then Dom has his layers too, because he's kind of a dick.
Oh man, he had a lot of character development.
He did.
For a character of his position
in the movie.
Of his the way he was written.
Mm-hmm.
In the screenplay, anyway. I haven't read the book yet. Yet.
Yeah,
I want to.
I want to now.
I'm getting excited. Yeah. A lot of character development. I mean, he began the film kind of as I don't know, arguably the weakling of the group. Like he complained a lot. He was upset that they were out hiking, and then he had a problem with his leg. And then he became really accusatory and kind of mean-minded towards Luke.
Yeah.
And he brought to surface something that was evidently troubling Luke throughout the earlier part of the film.
Troubling the other friends too, perhaps, because Luke was like, "Do you all feel this way?" And Hutch kind of didn't deny it.
They're fulfilling their last friends.
Yeah.
Is his wish.
Yeah.
The way it's presented in the dream sequence is kind of like a suggestion.
Yeah.
Maybe that was deliberately done because it was Luke's dream, but that's probably a stretch.
Yeah.
But they're fulfilling their last friend's desire. And so it's impossible not to constantly conjure up their fallen comrade, as it was said in the video introduction for Rookie Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. and Dom again though, like he at the end there, right before he died, the last image, the thing that was his biggest fear was losing his wife. So he may be kind of a dick. He was very accusatory, unfairly, toward Luke, but he loved his wife.
Dude, even before that, when they were in the cell.
Oh yeah,
this guy was so worried about his sprained leg, or
you go on without me, something.
I don't know, whatever, and then eventually like, oh, go on without me, and then when they were none of the cell parts, they were in the basement of one of those houses, and they were shackled and they were monitored by the cultists.
Yeah.
He said something to the effect that he accepts his fate.
Right.
He's
ready, admirable.
He's ready to go. Anyone who says that in almost any situation, automatically, you're like, oh my god. I don't know if I get me out of here.
Yeah, and then
I got a cat I need to feed.
And then when they do take him out, and then they tie him up on the sacrificial posts. Yeah, sacrificial post. I think he gets kind of tired of waiting. He yells something like, basically like, "Where are you? Come on, get it over with," sort of thing. And then, which shows a certain amount of strength. I don't think not just anyone could yell that to a terrifying forest monster. So I think that all four of our main characters in the movie have some really cool, interesting, well-written, well-acted layers.
Yeah.
I really like that.
And for a horror film, when you're accustomed to seeing characters that undergo almost no development whatsoever,
or just characters just meat.
Their whole purpose is to be killed.
Right.
There's nothing beyond that.
Right.
Which is sad. Because you're going to react more and to care more and to feel more when a character that you like actually, or maybe not like, but a character that you sympathize with or empathize with, the character who you understand, as opposed to just some face that eventually loses their face, or exactly. And so a lot of unique character development for a film, even with characters that don't have a lot of dialogue or a lot of talk. By the way, when they're going to the forest, when they're traveling, scenes where the characters are just kind of going back and forth, riffing on each other. I don't know if that was scripted or not, but it created a really believable idea that they're all good mates. That they're good friends. And there was some comedy there that had the appearance that was developing organically.
Yeah, it was very organic. It was really well acted, well written, or perhaps improv at the time. And I think, yeah, I did notice how good that was, because it's subtle. It's not overblown. It's not exaggerated. It felt real. As you know, this is, you know, there's fantasy elements to this, mythological elements to this, horror elements to this, but their friendships seemed real, almost. What would I say? Almost too real. So real that you don't even notice how good the acting and the writing is in the movie. You're like, yeah, that's just how friends are. But then you realize, oh, that's hard to write. That's hard to act. Yet you have these actors, these writers, and then these characters portraying that. I think that's really cool.